Brad Eldred to lead it off for Fresno. Grounded out to second his first trip as Bear Bay deals low for a ball 1-0. Each team with a home run, Kevin Richardson in the third and Brett Pill in the fourth, and that's the scoring in the game, 1-1. Eldred drills one to left field, way back and gone. No doubt about this one for Eldred, his 12th of the year, as he catches up to Brett Pill, tied for the team lead, and Fresno takes the lead 2-1. I mentioned he doesn't get cheated on his cuts, and when he hits them, they stay hit. I guess he doesn't hit many home runs that just barely crawl over the fence, Doug.
No, and as I mentioned, usually there's a center field.
And his second home run of this series, as Max Ramirez takes a ball 1-0.
Third time this year that Bay has allowed 2 home runs in a game.
Ramirez checks his swing. Did he go? No, he didn't, says the first base umpire, Dixon Sturman. And the count is 2-0 to Max Ramirez. So power has resulted in all the scoring in this game. Cold strike, 2-1 to Ramirez. When you look at Bear's overall numbers, and opponents are hitting .318 against him coming in. 90 hits allowed in 73 in the third innings. So overall in the season, I mentioned that recently he's pitched so much better. But the numbers overall, you know that he's been knocked around on the season. At some point, you could take advantage. Hard hit ball at the middle, a base hit in the center field for Ramirez. His second hit, he's 2 for 2. So the Giants just signed him the other day. This is his second game with the Grizzlies, and he is showing off his skills. A hanging breaking ball.
Both hits Ramirez have been to center field. Ramirez mentioned this today, that a guy that, as he labeled, the label he put on himself was, I've always been a good hitting catcher. I want to know more of, I want people to know me that I'm a good defensive catcher. Steve Decker said about now having Max Ramirez and Hector Sanchez that Hector will still get the bulk of the starts behind the plate. But Max Ramirez provides a little veteran punch for the big league club. Certainly a guy that can help Hector Sanchez a little bit as well. Both, again, being from Venezuela, know each other quite well. I talked to Hector before the game yesterday. I said, how well do you know Max Ramirez? And he just had a big grin. He said, hey, same country, Venezuela, different towns, but they all know each other down there from winter ball. Sanchez got out in front of that one, and Navarro has a play in front of the Fresno dugout, in the dugout, and he can't get it. It just kept tailing away from him as he reached over the railing, and Sanchez is still alive. Sanchez is Navarro almost not. Well, he's not going to get any help from the Grizzlies players over there. They're not going to tell him how close he is. That was a nice effort. Sanchez behind 0-1 with Ramirez at first and nobody out. And bluffed to first by Bay. I was talking about how Josh Towers didn't walk many hitters and how Bay reminds me of Towers. And Bay has pretty good numbers as far as not walking hitters. He hasn't walked anybody tonight. And sometimes that works against you. I remember Towers telling me one time that he had been told by several pitching coaches, don't throw too many strikes sometimes. It's just the opposite of what you normally hear. Base hit right field for Sanchez. So the two possible options for the Giants at catcher down the road, maybe even this year, have base hits back-to-back. Ramirez and Sanchez after the homer by Eldred. So Bay has been hittable in this inning. Home run, single, 2 on, nobody out in the top of the order, and Darren Ford will bring the infielders in at the corners in case of a bunt. Always a threat with Darren Ford up there. He does score a bunt, punts it foul on the third base side. Now, it's not one aspect of Ford's game that we have seen much. Now, granted, we have not seen Darren Ford much with Fresno. Again, as a Grizzly, this is just his 14th game. But generally a guy that, even with San Francisco, isn't called upon to bunt much. He doesn't hit much up in San Francisco. He's called upon to steal a base, pinch run, play some defense. And really an aspect that, again, Ford doesn't do a lot of.
0-1 the count. Yeah, with the Giants so far, when they've used him, it's almost as if he's a designated runner. I mean, yeah, he'll be out there for defense as well, like you said, with his speed. But, I mean, it's not quite, but almost a Herb Washington type situation. The A's fans will remember when he was exclusively a pinch runner for the Oakland A's back in, what, the 70s? I think it was during the A's World Series run there in 72, 73, 74. They had Herb Washington, who was a track star. And Ford certainly runs like a track star. He bunts at third base side. This is a good one. And Bay's going to let it roll, and it goes foul. Good decision, as it turned out, for Bear Bay. And now the count is 1-2 to Darren Ford.
If there weren't two other runners on right now, Ford would have been at second base.
That's true. If you let that roll and it ends up being fair, if there are no runners on, he would be at second.
Now, Darren Ford is thinking one thing right here. Why not swing away? The game's on Comcast. There's a chance I get a home run. And we teased Darren about that before the game. He admitted, he said he didn't know that last night's game was on television, which I guess with his family being mostly back in Vineland, New Jersey, even the power of Comcast hometown does not quite get back to southern New Jersey. But Darren said, wow, both my home runs have been on TV all throughout Northern California.
Well, yesterday he tried to bunt earlier in the at-bat and then hit a home run. Let's see what happens here as he swings and misses strike three. Second time that he Ks tonight, and he's 0 for 3. You know, in that situation, he looked like he was bunting more for a base hit than he was to try to move the runners up, because he kept trying to bunt right on the line. That's the 4th strikeout for Bay. Tyler Graham will step in for Steve Decker. 1 for 2, a single in the 3rd. 1 out, Ramirez at second, Sanchez at first. You have 2 catchers on the bases. And Graham takes from Bay a called strike, 0-1. Well, the way things were going for Bay in this inning, the Grizzlies may have done Bay a favor by asking Ford to bunt there. He was giving up hits, a home run, 2 singles, and all of a sudden you got somebody bunting. It slows down the momentum a little bit. But from Steve Decker's point of view, he wanted to get 2 more runners in scoring position. A foul ball here at the plate, 0-2 to Graham. Wanted to try to have a big inning. Another base hit would have scored 2 if the runners had been moved up. Graham singled in the 3rd after he grounded to 3rd in the 1st inning. Kevin Richardson, the catcher, a home run today and gave Salt Lake a 1-0 lead, but a couple of home runs by the Grizzlies to tie it by Pill and to go ahead by Eldred. 1 ball and 2 strikes now to Graham.
Mentioning Graham took Bay for a 3-run triple, and that we touched on that a while back. That game that had that 15-14 game, there were 3 3-run triples.
Graham swings and hits one into the gap in left center field. It's a base hit as Auer cuts it off. Here comes Ramirez around 3rd. He will score. Sanchez gets the 3rd. In at 2nd with an RBI double is Tyler Graham. And Fresno scores again. It's 3-1 Grizzlies.
Right down the middle, and Graham whacking it out toward left center. I never take Tyson Auer for granted. He and Graham are similar players, both speedy center fielders. And I thought that ball might have had just a little too much hang time at first, but obviously Auer not able to catch up to it. But that 3-run, that game that had the 3 3-run triples, Joe, it was Tyler Graham who did in the 2nd inning, but Reggie Willits of Salt Lake did it in the 1st. And then later in the game, Connor Gillespie had a 3-run triple. So you might go a year and never see a 3-run triple. I mean, you don't see a triple too often, and it's got to be
at AT&T Park. We have triples alley, but still.
And we saw a 3-in-1 game, and then the Grizzlies, while we were in Sacramento, I believe it was, there was a game that had a pair of 2-run triples.
Well, after this double, it's a home run, 2 singles, and a double against Bay here in the 5th inning. And Edgar Gonzalez at the plate with the infield halfway and runners at second and third.
I want to correct one thing. The game where the Grizzlies had a pair of 2-run triples was actually final game of the last homestand, June 16th here against Tacoma.
Well, as far as Salt Lake is concerned, they can ill afford to give up any more runs in this inning. That's why they have the infield playing halfway. Gonzalez rips one up the middle into center field, a base hit. 1 run is in Sanchez. Here comes Graham to the plate. He will score. It's a 2-run single for Edgar Gonzalez. It's 5-1 Fresno. And Edgar Gonzalez has reached in 28 consecutive games the longest active streak in the league.
Good piece of hitting there by Edgar, just very simply taking that ball the other way. That almost nailed the third base umpire, Mike Fagan, standing out that way.
So Gonzalez does the job. Hit the ball hard up the middle and took advantage of the fact that the infield was playing halfway. And here's Connor Gillespie, and they pitch out, nothing happening. Gonzalez is not going. And Gillespie is ahead 1-0. So a 4-run inning to make it 5-1, a home run, 3 singles and a double. 5 hits in the inning. And the only out came because Ford was trying to bunt and put himself behind in the count and then struck out. Gillespie takes outside and low. He's ahead 2-0 as he is the 7th man to hit here in the 5th. Got action in the bullpen as Amalio Diaz is throwing, the right-hander for the Bees. Seems all of a sudden Bay has run out of gas here in the 5th inning. You have a long inning like this in this kind of heat, it's very difficult. Gillespie hits one to center right at Auer as he makes the play for the 2nd out. Back to first goes Gonzalez.
Joe, Gonzalez streak began May 25th here against Oklahoma City.
That's an impressive streak that he's got going. 28 straight games reaching base, and Brett Pills steps in. He homered in the 4th inning, 1 for 2, his 12th home run of the year. Temporarily had the club lead, and then Brad Eldred tied him for the club lead earlier in this inning, leading off.
29 out of Gonzalez's last 30 games. Has reached base safely.
This is what Pill did the last time up. It was pretty amazing. That pitch was way in. And usually you're going to hit that foul, but he kept it fair by plenty for that home run. Some quick hands that he has. Pill takes a called strike.
What I like to do sometimes, and his parents, avid listeners to the Grizzlies, and mentioned they're here tonight, but still just have some fun. I sent Brett Pill's mom a text saying home run Brett, because they don't, as much as they are avid listeners, it doesn't mean they can listen every night, so sometimes I'll send a text here and there. And I know they're here tonight, but I was just joking around with them.
Pill cracks one to leap left field. Amarista looks up, and it is gone. Brett Pill does it again. Home runs in consecutive at-bats. A 2-run shot here, and it's a huge inning for Fresno. 7-1 Grizzlies.